Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back to Babeinlibrary. It's your girl Lisa, and today we're going to watch my Noir November reading vlog. So if you're new to my channel, you may not be aware, but every year I host Noir November, which is a reading challenge centering books written by Black authors, featuring and starring Black main characters, and if it is an audiobook, it is told by a Black narrator. The reason why I decided to have this challenge is to ensure that people were getting to read diversely prior to the beginning of the year. A lot of times people would put it on their calendar and say, oh, my goal for next year is to read more diversely. Oh, my goal for next year is to pick up a book by a Black author. When really you could do it before the end of the year and do it that following year. So I created 13 different prompts to center all of the genres you may be interested in. So there's something for your nonfiction and memoir readers. There is something for your sci-fi readers, your romance readers, your mystery readers, what have you. There is a book that's out there that you could use for this prompt. Now in this video, I'm going to read books from 3 different prompts. 1, my new release, 2, my historical fiction option, and 3, a novella. I figured this was a really good mix, and so let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with my novella option. I'm doing the quickest of quick check-ins because I just want to know if y'all can hear these air horns going off. Like, it sounds like burr, 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 burr. Your girl is finally reading The Beginning of Forever by A.E. Valdez. This one is going to stand in place for my novella pick for my Noir November. And I'm really just excited to tell y'all because y'all may not be excited as I am about finishing a series and reading this book. But I know y'all are tired of me talking about it. So you probably should get excited because y'all don't have to hear me say nothing else about this book. It is not going into 2025 with me. It is a series I'm going to check off the list. And I'm loving being back with these characters. This is Asen and Harlow's romance. They were the OGs. They kicked it off in the first book in this series. And I'm usually not the person that has to go back after I've gotten my HEA or HFN. Like, I don't really need to read more from you. I want to see what everybody else is doing. However, A.E. Valdez knows what she's doing. She said, okay, you didn't really get a happy ever after because I still had some things in store for them. Like, I still had plans for them, and you're going to get a double whammy because you're going to see the rest of the characters that you love. And I said, okay, baby, I'm in. You ain't got to twist my arm for a good time. I started this series completely wrong. Like, this is the 3rd book, and I started off with the final book. The final book is my favorite. Has my favorite characters. I fell in love with A.E. Valdez's writing because of that book, and now I'm working my way through the series as it was intended to be read. And I actually love that for myself because in that 4th book, we got to see Asher Blaine, which is by far my favorite character. And the way he's acting up in this book, you know, being his, you know, mannish ways. And I'm just sitting here looking like, yeah, get your laughs in now, baby, because love finna hit you like a ton of bricks. You're finna be down bad for Marissa. I want to see the build up. Like, I am hoping to get that foreshadowing into a book that I already know and love. But outside of that, I love that A.E. Valdez is doing a couple of things. She's already tapping into a sentimental vibe, being the fact that these two are going to get eloped. They realize it doesn't have to be a big, long production. It doesn't have to be a spectacle to be able to commit yourself to your partner. We had a touching scene already in here where she has decided to go against the grain. I know people were telling her, oh, let's go wedding dress shopping. Let's pick this out. But she actually has her mother's wedding dress when her mother married her father, and her mother passed away when she was 13. So I'm already getting the sentimental vibes that I know and love from A.E. Valdez. She is definitely a deep and emotionally connected writer. I am loving the agency and ownership that these characters are taking, really stepping into themselves again with them choosing to not only elope, but being able to be comfortable to tell your friends and family, hey, it's about us. Actually, mom and dad, I don't know anybody. I'm not paying for them to be at my wedding. If they're not going to be beside me when it comes to saying my vows and committing to those long term, they don't need to be at my wedding. More people need to have this energy. I am waiting to see what kind of shenanigans these two get up into in Vegas, because I am pretty sure it is a let's get married in Vegas and let's see what kind of ruckus we can cause. And so I am just now starting. I'm only 3 chapters in, but this was one of the books that literally started off with a bang. Like, they got caught by their neighbor, you know, getting in and outside. And it was a funny scene because the neighbor was like, "Hey, sweetie, are you okay over there?" She was like, "Oh, we're laying pipe." You doggone right we are. So I cannot wait to continue with this, let you know my thoughts, and really check this one off the bucket list. Talk to y'all soon. I finished it, y'all. 5 stars. The perfect wrap up for the series to me personally, which is why I'm so glad that I read it out of order. Again, there is another book that comes after the beginning of Forever, which is known as A Worthy Love. That is Marissa and Asher's love story. But being that was the first book that I read, I did not feel like I was left wanting more. I felt like this was actually the perfect conclusion and really should have been the last in the series, because we got to see all of the couples that we knew and loved. We got to see Asher and Marissa and their interaction. It felt like a warm hug coming back to these characters. The last time I read in this series, which was book 2, I read that probably back in July and August, and now it's November. So it was good to take a step away from this, give myself a chance to miss these characters, because that made this ever sweeter. This is really a nice pairing with the All I've Ever Wanted, All I've Ever Needed. Like I said, this is the first in the series. This is Harlow and Aeson's original story, and most times I would have walked away from this and would have been satisfied. When I first read this, I gave it a 3-star. Not to say that it wasn't something I would have been interested in, but me reading it out of order, I knew that this wasn't going to be my favorite. So to come back, and I think the reason I probably put this one off so long is because I just didn't feel like I needed more from Harlow and Aeson. I felt like what we got in this book was enough. But coming back to see these characters, see them fall in love even harder, work to get there happily ever after, also seeing all of the other relationships and bonds that they made was perfect. Speaking of relationships, I will say that I loved seeing the bromance in here. I love seeing the friendships and the bonding with the women. My favorite scenes probably had to be, you know, their nights in Vegas. So their bachelor and bachelorette scenes. I felt so nostalgic because I too went to Vegas and had a Thunder from Down Under engagement that I went to, where I got on stage, I met the men. However, nothing as wild and crazy as Marissa. Like, I am very much giving Quinn. I am chilling, letting everybody else have the fun, and just, you know, kikiing and ha-haing. But if I could turn back the sands of time and go back and do it all over again, baby, I'm gonna be Marissa up in this joint. I'm gonna do the things that she did, especially if Asher Blaine is the one that I am doing it with. So again, read this series. I really liked what A.E. Valdez did here in terms of the conversation it had. Harlow is a former people pleaser. She didn't want a big production. She did not want to have a spectacle of a wedding. She just wanted to be with Aeson. And Aeson wants to just solely make her happy. He doesn't care what that means, if it's going to do the big showdown or if it's just going to a coast and saying their I do's and their vows and committing to each other together without anyone there. He's down for it. And so I appreciated that there was a discussion about how much people get invested in how your family feels like they have a right to certain things when their only obligation to you is to love you and respect you, and vice versa. Those are the things that you need from them. And so I was very interested to see both sides of the coins. I loved that Harlow and Aeson knew that no matter what, as long as you're good and I'm good in this relationship, we can make it through whatever. I'm always going to have your back. I do not play about you. It doesn't matter if it's friends or family. You are my person and I'm going to ride with you. I appreciate seeing their relationship go in that manner. especially when it came to how Asen stood up to his mom, and he told her, hey, one, you rubbed me the wrong way. You asked a question that was out of pocket and out of character, and I don't appreciate you disrespecting my wife like that. Second of all, this is what we want in a man. We always say, I don't want a mama's boy. I don't want somebody that is going to put me second. I don't want somebody that feels like they have to, appease their parents and appease their mother in order for them to, be satisfied. And I have to understand. Asen was like, yeah, I love you. I'm going to love you until the day I die. However, this woman right here, she my wife, and you going to have to respect that or move around. And I was like, baby, I knew he was a man. I just didn't know how much, he had to offer. But I should have knew after this book, because Harlow found herself a keeper. But on the flip side of that coin, I really do appreciate Asen's parents and the context that we got about why his mother was doing some of the things that she did, especially when it came to not only Asen's marriage, but Seven's announcement back when she first had the twins, and how her mother rubbed her the wrong way and said, hey, are you having kids too soon? Like, her mother is very opinionated. And her husband, which is Asen's father, really did try to shine a little bit of light and give a little bit of context, and to say, hey, as parents, we want the best for you, and you'll know this when you have children. Your mother was misguided, and some of it stems from, her history. However, give her time, she'll come around and she'll see it. And I'm glad that A.E. Valdez didn't drag it out, because she definitely could have. Because usually we're looking for that tension, we're looking for that angst. But that's not what A.E. Valdez does. She doesn't feel like she has to drag things through the mud for her point to come across, and it very much did with this story. Like I said, this had its sweet and touching moments. The way that Harlow's father and Asen worked together to surprise her, the way that we got to see how much not only Harlow and Asen's love blossom, but seeing Seven and Zane, seeing Kyrell and Quinn, just seeing love going around these young Black couples, and to be married and thriving and realizing that your life is changing, to see the progression and see them growing older, and understanding that what it looks like for people like Marissa and Asher to be the last of their friend group, and how they yearn and desire more. And they really realize that growing older doesn't mean that you can't have your friends, you can't have memories. It just means that they look a little different. Needless to say, like I said, I love this book. Okay, so now that I am finished with the beginning of Forever, I'm like, okay, I don't think I want to jump directly into another romance. I'm trying to go back and forth between romance and then another genre, because y'all know I can stay in romance landia forever. However, I think it's time for my historical fiction pick, and I'm about 40% of the way through, and that is Hold You Down by Tracy Brown. Originally, I was going to do Yellow Life, but I was like, ooh, that's a little bit too heavy. Joke's on me, because I clearly forgot that everyone that has read this book has stated that they've been in shambles, that they've been sobbing, boo-hooing, that they were unconsolable for a minute. And I am now scared. Like I said, I am 40% of the way through this book, and honestly, I'm working like Doctor Strange. I'm trying to think of every particular scenario that would end in me on the floor in a puddle of tears. And I figured out a good number of them. Unfortunately for me, I think I'm just causing myself undue stress, because Tracy is going to come out of the woodwork with something that I'm not prepared for, something that I did not calculate, and it's going to hurt. And I don't really know if I want to be on camera to show y'all that, but we're already locked in. So y'all riding with me. I don't want to see y'all in the comments talking about, girl, it's just a book. This one is one I know it's going to hurt. This is a historical fiction, as I stated, for this particular prompt. It is set in the 80s. And in my mind, I just can't fathom that is a historical fiction, but it is. This is centered around the crack epidemic, and so that is one thing I want you all to be mindful of. This one has heavy topics. It is so thought-provoking for me that I'm sitting here like, wow, there's something that I can see on both sides of the fence when it comes to this one. And when I speak about both sides of the fence, this centers two sisters. So you have one sister whose name is Mercy. She is the older sister. Mercy is very cautious. She is very reserved. She is very by the book, but she is also very judgmental. On the flip side, you have the younger sister whose name is Lennox. Lennox is a spitfire, wild child. She is passionate for the ones that she loves and F everybody else. She wants to live in the fast life. She has a hustler mentality, but she has a big heart. And so take what you will about both sisters. Again, they both have their pros and the cons, but beyond all of that, they love each other, and they've only had each other and their grandma. Of course, their grandma is deceased at this point. And now their mother is deceased. And that's how we start the book. The book starts off kind of heavy, where we are at the funeral of Mercy and Lennox's mother. However, Mercy and Lennox never had a really good relationship with their mother. Their mother was not really in their life. She was fleeting. She would come in for a moment and then she would leave because her mother would always chase a man. And so most of the time the girls were raised by their grandmother. And so they're coming into this ceremony and they don't necessarily have the warmest feelings, but it brings them back to, okay, at the end of the day, we only have each other. Let's see what we can do with mom's insurance money to be able to propel us forward. So Lennox always has had dreams of grandeur. So she's like, hey, that money is just enough for me to get maybe a few clothes, get my son a few clothes, and, figure out what's next. Take myself out on the town. Whereas Mercy is wanting to open up a restaurant with her grandmother's recipes. And Lennox is like, that's a fantastic idea. I'll support you. Now, keeping that in mind, like I said, Lennox has a really big heart. And so Lennox sees that there is a guy that, she originally thought was lame. And she was like, I'm not giving him a minute of my time. And so he came around stunting, and he had like a Benz and he was flashing. And he approached her. He was like, hey, I want to take you out on a date. And Lennox is like, $, $, let me go after him. And from there, she gets caught up in the fast life because G is intertwined in the crack game, right? So he is really looking for someone that he can share the successes with, and he partners with Lennox for her to start cooking up. And so that is where the rift starts to occur between Mercy and Lennox, because Mercy is like, baby, this is not going to end well. Like, I don't think that you've thought this all the way through. You are a very smart girl. There's other ways in which you can aspire to get the life of your dreams. And they start to go farther and farther from one another. But one of the things that I love is that no matter their differences, they're not letting their sons' relationships to be impacted by this. They would have big blowouts, but their kids would still have each other. And it's very important because Mercy's son, Judah, is going to private school, and he is excelling, in academically, but he is comparing himself to his younger cousin, Dion. And now Dion is Lennox's son, and his mother is not necessarily paying attention to him anymore. She, makes sure that he has all of the flyest fashion. He has the coolest games. Like, she is giving him everything material wise, but she's not investing to make sure that his grades are staying up. And so like the two cousins never allow their relationship to get tattered because of the differences, but they envy what each other has. Like, Dion is like, I wish I could be in a home with TT because she, makes sure that your grades is right and she's always there with you, and she doesn't, have these things going on. And Judah is like, but you get all of the coolest things. And so it's very interesting to see the different sides. It is very interesting because, again, I can see both sides. Because someone has the aspiration of, you know, having a certain lifestyle, those people could cut corners, and Lennox feels like if I don't do it, someone else will. And Mercy is looking at her like, first of all, I'm in the medical or healthcare profession. Secondly, you are tearing up our community. Like, don't you see how much this is impacting everyone, including us? Because there is repercussions, and they're starting to chip away again at their relationship. And I am very invested to see how this progresses, because Lennox doesn't look like she's giving up. So I will come back to you with some additional thoughts on this. Hopefully y'all don't have to see me boo-hooing and call for somebody to pick me up off the floor, but I am fully prepared to see what happens. Literally only 77% of the way through, and Tracy is kicking my ass. Girl, make it stop. Like, come on now, we don't deserve this. Like, we've been through too much at this point for you to still be putting us through all of this turmoil. Make it in. Do I even have to say it? Y'all know this is 5 stars. Anytime a book can make me cry, it automatically gets elevated to a new level. This right here captured me, mind and body, because it had my mind in a tizzy, and y'all saw the tears running down my face. Emotional damage. However, this is the realest fiction book I've ever read. This is a work of art and a masterpiece, and may Tracy Brown rest in peace. I believe she passed away last year. This book came out in 2022, and she didn't have to give us another thing. Like, this book right here was all she needed to do to give us, and we are grateful for it. But then she doubled back and gave us Brooklyn, which is one that I read at the beginning of the year, and that was also a 5 star. But nothing compares to Hold You Down. The way in which this book was written was masterful. It allows you to see things from all sides, and it allows the reader to be the judge, jury, and executioner. And I will say that for people who come in on their high horse and say that it can never be me, this lets you know quickly it takes one wrong move and it could be you. One thing to make the deck of cards fall. But on the flip side, it shows you that for the people that say, hey, actually get it money however you live and make it all about you, it shows you your actions have ripple effects, and then it goes down from lineage into your children and your children's children, and it keeps going from there, right? That one decision that you make that you believe is selfish and you're doing it for the best of reasons could have that adverse impact. And you may not even be able to see how it causes damage. This book was fantastic. This is not a book that you walk away and you're like, done, you put it away. Like, it's going to stay in your mind. The characters and the actions and the way in which you feel this, it is not a book that you easily walk away from, but you walk away having seen everything that could happen with these characters. It takes you through so much of a life. Like I said, it spans from the moment we see the characters on page all the way to the end. You are holding your breath. You are wondering what's next. You are trying to foreshadow what's going to happen. In some ways, you see it coming. In other ways, it hits you like a freight train. This magnificent work of art should be studied. Like, this is something that from a college course you will be able to see societal impacts. This again is set in historical settings, so it again very much talks about how the system is set up for people to be able to go back. How once you are envisioned as a criminal, it's easy to get back into the system. It tells you, hey, this is what happens when you enter a life that's fast and money is free and flowing. I really did grow to understand these characters and want the best for them and be able to see when they hurt, I hurt. Y'all saw me crying, and at that point I was in public, and then I started to drive home, and I really had to like put my mind somewhere else because I was like, I can't be on autopilot and experiencing these emotions. Like, I need to take a break from this. This is very, very heavy. Please know that there are a lot of trigger warnings for drug usage, trigger warnings for death of a parent, trigger warnings for incarceration, trigger warnings for rape, trigger warnings for domestic violence. Like, this book is heavy, but it's real. And I could not have picked a better book for my historical fiction. So this one is a must read. Definitely is going to be on a list for the best of 2024. And we'll see which one it's on. Now, for my third and final book for this video, I am choosing my Noir November new release, and that is going to be Church Girl by Naima Simone. I'm already 50% of the way through. This comes out November 26th, and I did get an art copy from NetGalley, and I'm already loving it. I am having such a great time. Every time I read a Naima Simone book, I am cackling, like I'm laughing out loud. The tropes in this one are runaway bride, it is grump sunshine, it is good girl, bad boy, with a opposites attract because she is coming from a small town and he is a big city guy. It is set in Chicago, but she is from a small town in Alabama. Now, what's happening here is that our female main character, Aaliyah, is running away from the wedding that her father set up. Now, Aaliyah is a preacher's kid, and her father has arranged for her to be married to his progeny, right? Like the person that he is raising up in the church to take his place. Aaliyah has no interest in this man, and she's like, I've got to get out of here. I actually need to break free because it is very stifling. The woman that I'm supposed to be is, docile. I am expected to be a yes woman and just do whatever my husband said, and that is not the life for me. So what happens is Aaliyah goes and she runs away the day of her wedding. She runs into her cousin. She's like, hey, cousin, I know that you're leaving to go back home. Her cousin is the only person that has left Parsons because she's the black sheep. So she comes to her cousin and is like, hey, please take me back with you. I want to go to school. I want to become my own woman. I want to emulate the life that you have. Please take me with you. And so her cousin is like, okay, sure. I'm already in heat. Let's just go ahead and leave because everybody doesn't really like me, but they're going to think I corrupted you, but it's okay because I'm helping you out. So she goes back to Chicago with her cousin and she's like, I've got to get on my own 2 feet. I appreciate you doing this for me. But she goes out and Aaliyah's like, I'm going to try to be a nanny because this is something I had already did for the church. I'm used to working with kids. I did it for youth pastor at school at the church. And let me see if I can do this on my own. So she signs up for this agency and she gets paired up with Vaughn. Now, Vaughn is a tattoo shop owner. He is well renowned in the tattoo business. And so not only does he own his own shop, but he also tattoos celebrities and football players, musicians, you name it. He has a very hold into the game. But he is a single father, so he needs the help. He's so busy and he is really protective of his daughter. His ex-wife, Sheree, is constantly nagging him, constantly trying to use his daughter as a pawn, and trying to get back at him for whatever may have happened in their divorce. And so he's like, I need somebody I can trust. I do not trust my ex-wife. Let me see if I can use this service. So he first meets Aaliyah, and Vaughn is like, yeah, something in me is like, no, this isn't the woman for me. Like, I think she's too naive and I do not trust my daughter being in her care. So he automatically brushes Aaliyah off. And Aaliyah takes offense to that. Now, she respects his wishes and she goes about her day until Vaughn is put into a corner because Vaughn is trying to use the service. So he has went through 2 or 3 women in the nanny service, and he's like, they are flaking on me. They are not returning my calls. They're not reliable. I guess I gotta call old girl back. And so he calls Aaliyah, and Aaliyah's like, hey, I'll do it under one condition. You start to respect me. I don't like how you play me and you brush me off, and I'm really trying to do you a solid. And so he takes it upon himself to say, okay, I'm going to make sure that I respect your boundaries. I'm understanding that I need to give you a shot. And so their relationship starts to build because Gia is at school and she is in a bully situation, and Aaliyah really steps up for her. And immediately you get to see that Vaughn already has an attraction. That is honestly the reason why he decided that he wouldn't hire Aaliyah, is because something in him said, hey, I actually want to sully this good girl. I want to be her man, and I'm trying to have a professional boundary. Not only is she my employee, she's also 10 years younger than me. I don't really need to put myself in this situation knowing I have an attraction with her. But as they begin to work with each other, their resolve starts to crumble a little bit, and they are brought closer together. And at this point, we are at the culmination. We are at the head because they just had this very, very intimate scene in the kitchen. And it reminds me a lot of Alexandria House's goal. Because again, very nanny and single father. It is that we're fighting this the entire way through, and then we decide to give in. So I can't wait to tell you my final thoughts on this one. But for sure, I am enjoying it. Please note that this does have religious bigotry. It has some religious trauma. But again, one thing Aaliyah may be a preacher's kid, but that does not mean she doesn't have a backbone. And the only people she can't stand up to is her parents. But I think Vaughn is going to have that handle. So I can't wait to give you my final thoughts. Okay, I think it's time for me to wrap up this video because at this point, if I pick up anything else, it's going to be tempting the reading fates a little too much for my liking. They've blessed me with 2 books that are 5 stars and a 4.25. And they also blessed me to have a potential new book boyfriend of 2024. I can't ask for a better ending here because Vaughn from Church Girl is that deal. He was written with, precision. Naima Simone said, I'm going to give you a possessive main character with big dominant energy that also knows how to be vulnerable and how to reaffirm you. This man, baby, he was written to perfection. I love the way in which he showed up for Aaliyah. Aaliyah had a moment when it came to her parents and whether or not she was going to follow the gaslighting tendencies of her father and go back to Parsons, Alabama, or if she was going to continue to walk in the path that she is and being the light that she had. As soon as Vaughn heard a male voice and he heard how they were talking to Aaliyah, he came running. Same thing with their encounter at Tamira's job. He saw that she was in a vulnerable state. He asked, what can I do for you? Do you need a shoulder cry on? Do you need a performance done for you? What do you need? How can I make your day better? And that's just what I need in a man. How can I make your day better? What is the way in which I can ease something off of your plate? But truly, she was just the woman for him. She rode for him just as hard as he was riding for her. When she came up to that school and she put the principal in the place because he was making Gia feel bad, that's when we knew, Vaughn, this is your woman right here. The way in which she was the antithesis to your ex-wife, and she put your ex-wife in place, baby, y'all are good. There's nothing that can stop y'all at this point, and I absolutely love to see it. I'm a little perturbed because I could have went a little bit longer. I feel like Naima Simone said, okay, that's your happily ever after, we're done. And girl, you could have gave us 50 more pages. Let it simmer a little bit. Let us be happy and blessed, because the way you wrapped it up, I was like, well, where's the rest? I had an art copy. Maybe there was an extended epilogue that I missed, but I don't think so. On top of the fact, Naima Simone, why would you make it that I couldn't get Tamira's story until 2026? Now you playing. Now I have to beg you in your DMs. But all in all, I really enjoyed Church Girl. Like I said, if you're looking for the Beyonce Church Girl vibes in a book, this is the one. I'm pretty sure that Naima was like bumping it on replay while she was putting pen to paper. Do me a favor and leave me a little girl emoji in the comments below for Gia, who is one of the shining stars as a side character. If you are interested in reading Church Girl, if you happen to have a book that you read for Noir November that you wanted to recommend, put that down in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.